Firstly, thank you very much for joining us today. We're just going to start, first of all, Anya, how did you get into cricket and what age did you start playing the game?
Um, the kind of age I remember playing is about 8 or something like that. But I think even before that, because Dad played cricket, I was down at like Bath Cricket Club watching him play, making him throw balls at me, and all of those kind of things. So I I played from quite a young age. Obviously, well, I don't particularly remember it, but probably a bit more, I guess, formally, about 8 or so, something like that.
And was that something that you encouraged, Sam? Did you play cricket yourself? Were you a cricket fan or?
No, I didn't play cricket at all, and I wasn't a cricket fan. But Ian played, so he played ever since we've been together. He's played cricket. So obviously Saturdays and Sundays were spent down at the cricket club watching Ian play. So that's Anya's spent since she was a baby around cricket, really.
And you obviously made your debut at a really young age internationally, but do you remember having that conversation with like your parents about cricket becoming more serious and not just a hobby?
Um, my memory's not amazing. When I was Mum will remember things much better than me. When I was younger, I played loads of sports, and I absolutely love sport. I still do. If I could, I would still play loads of sport. And then it kind of became a little bit of a process of as I got older and kind of moved forward with all the sports, they naturally just want more of your time. So the main ones that I did were cricket, football, rugby, and swimming. And then swimming, they wanted me to come 3, 4, 5 times a week, and I didn't want to do that because I also wanted to play rugby and football and cricket. So I said, well, I haven't got that much time. I don't want to just do swimming. I want to do all these other things. So kind of drops off, and the same with rugby. And then I played football, and that ended up not really working. So I think cricket probably was the one I was best at, the youngest. Mum may say differently. I don't really remember ever going, I really want to like be really serious, but I kind of got onto the Somerset Academy. So it was obviously serious, but that just kind of happened as opposed to me going, this is what I really want to do.
Yeah, I would agree, Annie. I think it's also what you were best at.
Yeah.
I think it was also what you were best at, and you were probably, things happened in the other sports, like you said with swimming. You loved swimming, but when they wanted you to come 5 times a week, and then it was a choice between swimming in a gala or playing cricket, actually cricket was what you wanted to do. I think football, you loved football and you loved playing football with the boys, but when that was narrowed down to just playing girls football, I think the shine went off it a little bit for you, and that made it easier for you to lean a bit more towards cricket. And I mean, you were really good at rugby, but I didn't ever feel that you were as passionate about that as the other sports. But in amongst all of those 4 sports, you had tennis lessons when you were little, and you loved that. You had some golf lessons because you wanted to learn how to play golf. I think the only thing you didn't, netball, you played at school as much as you could. You never really liked hockey for some reason. I don't know why. You and hockey didn't go together, but
not the one.
That was never part of what you wanted to do, but you tried everything, really.
And I guess, Sam, what toll does that take on you as a parent? Because obviously you must really enjoy seeing your kids doing all these amazing things, but at the same time it's obviously your time as well. So how did you find managing it all?
It was okay. It was okay. I was really fortunate in that I was able, so I'm a nurse, so I was able to do a job as a school nurse, which meant I worked sort of school day hours, and I had all the summer holidays, all the school holidays off, which really helped, not just from a being around point of view, but from a sort of recovery point of view. But I mean, at one time I would pick Annie up from school with, her packed lunch, or tea in a bag, and we'd be driving to Taunton for training. And then we'd do that on a Tuesday, on a Thursday, on a Friday, we'd go over to Bristol City for football. It was just what we did, really. We did it equally with all of them. You know, Annie was maybe a little bit busier, but Lauren obviously did cricket as well, and Tom. Tom played hockey, Tom played American football. You know, they all did a lot of things. So sometimes it was quite hard. My mum actually did a lot of transporting Annie around to cricket as well. She really helped where she could, which was really good.
And Anya, how did you find that, having like your mum's time and like your grandparents' time as well? Did you really enjoy it at the time? Did you recognise what they were doing for you then, or less so? Because I know for a fact with my mum, I did not value what she did for me until I've obviously grown up and I realised what she did do behind the scenes.
I would like to think, and Mum may shoot me down, but I would like to think I always, and especially as I got a bit older, kind of 13, 14, 15, 16, I did really appreciate what she did. I knew what she did. And actually it was, but even at the time, it was, although you're traveling and you're in the car, it was really nice time. And like, I think now, I mean, now it's a bad time to say it, obviously because of the pandemic, but as you get older, naturally you see each other less or whatever. And I look back at that and like Mum said, I remember especially going down to Taunton, I finished school, I played the flute as well, so I was playing in the band, and she'd pick me up and we'd drive the same way, we'd stop off at Sainsbury's, get our tea, carry on, and it kind of just became something that we did. And actually to be able to spend that amount of time together was amazing. And I always, like, now I'm in the position, and I wouldn't say like I go out there and actively think I'm doing this for Mum and Dad, but that's a huge part of it. Like, so for me, when they're able to be there, so the World Cup final is a classic example, like for them to be able to be there, Mum was there, Dad was there, Tom, Lauren, grandparents, to be able to share that day with them, because they've all had so much of a role to play in everything, is incredible. And like I said, that time is precious. Nan, I'm sure but Mum's mum has got a bit of dementia and stuff like that, but to be able to have spent as much time with her as I did, it was just amazing. And that's time you'll never get back. So in lots of ways I was very fortunate.
No, and Anya actually was always very grateful of the, you know, of the time and the sacrifice. You know, there wasn't any sacrifice, but she was always very grateful of the time.
And how did you feel, like you said, that World Cup, when Anya walked out onto the pitch at Lord's? How did that make you feel, Sam?
Oh, completely and utterly sick. I felt sick the whole day. It was a terrible day until the end. Then it was lovely, but most of it was terrible.
Mum's not a good watcher.
I'm not a good watcher, but do you know what? We had a little bit of perspective driving to Lord's, because we'd hired a minibus. And because there were a few of us that wanted to go, so we thought we'd all travel together. So we picked up my mum and Ian's mum and dad, obviously Tom and Lauren and her husband, and some really good friends of ours. So we all travelled together, and we were travelling into London, and we were all really excited. And then all of a sudden, we all went quiet because we saw Grenfell Tower. And I remember thinking in my head, I don't know why you're worrying about this, Sam, because it's not really that important. And I tried to keep that in my head in the day to sort of try and keep a little bit of perspective. I did lose that perspective at the end, but actually, you know, it did remind me that there were more important things in life than cricket.
And is that a piece of advice that you regularly pass on to your children that played professional sport, like, such as Anya? So is that something you sometimes have to remind them, that it is only a game of cricket?
It's a balance, isn't it? Because it means so much to Anya, you know, and the team. So actually to say that it's just a game of cricket is quite hard. I guess from my point of view, what I've always tried to instill in, to tell Anya, is that she is more than Anya Shrubsole that plays cricket. That's a very tiny part of who she is and what she's valued and loved for in our family. And I am immensely proud of what she's done and what she's achieved, but I'm far prouder of how she's gone about it. But the cricket's important. And I always said to her, if you want to stop playing tomorrow, Anya, that's absolutely fine. Stop playing. Just, can it not be just after I've bought you a new bat? But you know, if you don't want to do, if you don't want to do this, and do you remember that conversation, Anya?
Yeah.
Don't mind you not playing, but you know, if it could not be after we've just bought you a load of new kit, that would be great.
And obviously, I remember prior to that World Cup final, your dad posting a picture on social media of you as a youngster sort of at Lord's. What did it feel like to actually live out that childhood dream of playing at Lord's in a World Cup final?
Oh, it's really like, it's relatively impossible to put into words, if I'm being totally honest. The way I've always approached anything that I've done, and it's not even just playing cricket, it's all the sport I've played, it's at school, it's playing a game of cards. I just want to win, and I just want to be good. I just want to be good. I hate not being able to do what I'm supposed to be able to do. I just want to be good, and I just want to win. Basically, is essentially how I operate, and it can be the most meaningless thing in the world. And I've definitely got this from my father, not from my mother. But I just want to win. I want to be good, and if I'm not very good, I'm not very happy about it. And so, obviously, to be at a World Cup final in front of a full like house and all of that, like, I don't know, kind of, I was like, okay, I've done all right to get here. But obviously, it was just an amazing day, and I've been really fortunate, and I feel really privileged that I've kind of, my career has spanned a really a massive change in women's cricket in the 10 years that my career has happened. Well, 13, and so to kind of think back to what it was like when I made my debut, age 16, and half of the crowd were my family. To be at Lord's in a World Cup final in sellout, I just think was just incredible.
It was amazing.
I can still remember you being on like BBC West Today or whatever the like local news is, and I remember my granddad being like, look, it's a Somerset girl, and like I think you're only 15, 16 when you're just before you're getting kind of selected for that first time. And how much do other family members kind of take inspiration from you as well? Obviously they must be so proud. So I know Lauren's not playing anymore, but was it quite important having kind of a sibling rivalry growing up?
It was really funny. I wouldn't really say we had a sibling rivalry. Actually, I've got an older brother as well. And me and Tom played in the garden loads, but we've got a really poxy, like really small garden. We played test matches, we made up everything. But I would never say it was like there was any sort of rivalry. We get on incredibly well as siblings. And which has always been really nice. I absolutely love playing cricket with Lauren. And that was part of, especially at Bath, but also at Somerset, even once I moved away, I always wanted to stay and play. One, because I'd like to think I was loyal, but also I got an opportunity to go and play with Lauren, and obviously at Bath, Dad was the coach, and I absolutely love that. And I find it really odd because I just kind of, especially amongst family, but just in life, like I kind of like to see myself as a normal person who happens to play cricket and be good at cricket. And I'm very aware that obviously my family are proud of me and everything. But then like I think Tom, he's not a paramedic anymore, but Tom used to be a paramedic. Like I am incredibly proud of him for being able to. I could not do that job. Not in a million years could I do that job. Like I stand in a field and like throw a ball every now and then. Like that's nothing compared to what he does. And what I do is nothing compared. Mum and Dad work full time at the moment. Work a full time job and pretty much full time caring for grandparents who need it during COVID and everything else. And that's just. I train for a few hours a day and then just kind of sit around like. So I sometimes find it hard because I just don't see that in myself. I just see myself as like a normal person who's good at a sport.
Is it difficult to deal with being a role model sometimes? Do you feel that sort of pressure?
I don't feel it as a pressure. I think my biggest issue is that I don't mean this to sound arrogant, but it goes back to what I said before. Like, I just see myself as a normal person. I don't think I necessarily always see myself as a role model. I probably don't realise the impact that maybe I could have, because like I said before, I'm just like 29-year-old like person. I play cricket, like nothing particularly special. So I think that's my biggest problem, is that I probably don't see myself as a role model enough, as opposed to feeling the pressure to be a role model.
But I think that's your personality though, Anya, as well, because you're not somebody who would go out and actively seek praise or even feel very comfortable with that. That's not something you've ever felt massively comfortable with. And I mean, that you're a role model to people. There's lots of, I think about that little girl that followed you around a couple of summers ago and gave you her medal. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Actually, that just shows you how much you do touch the, lives of other people. So, yeah, but I know what you mean. But that's never been in your nature. That's never. I remember when I remember going to a parents' evening and speaking to your I'm going to call it cooking. It wasn't cooking. What was it? Home economics or something?
No, that's
like
what
that
you call it. Food tech.
That's it.
That's what us newbies call it. Home economics is your O-levels, mum.
And I remember sitting there and this food tech teacher talking about another one of her pupils. She's a really good cricketer, and she did her food tech course all about nutrition and cricket. And I remember, and at the time, you'd just been selected for England, and you never said a word. You never said a word, and just went, "Oh, good, that's really good." I was thinking, but you would never, if anybody asked you who you played cricket for, you would say Bath and Somerset. So you've never done that self-promotion, and it's not you.
How do you find all the media interviews and stuff? Because Cass and I saw some of was it The Guardian, Cassie, this morning?
I think it was.
In one of the papers, anyway, it was a really good article that you did about stop comparing us to men's cricketers. We're different. And it was a really nice message that come across. So do you enjoy talking to the media at all? Or is it something that you prefer to avoid?
I don't mind it. I would like to think I can talk relatively well. So it's not something I get particularly nervous about, because I feel like I can kind of answer whatever needs to be answered. I don't mind it. I've got used to it. I didn't like it very much when I first started, but you do get used to it. I'm probably better when I'm not being asked about myself. Is probably the best answer. So, but I also know its role in terms of the game and promoting the game and all of that sort of stuff. So it's just one of those things you get used to. Like I said, I've been doing it. I've been playing for England now for 13 years, and you just have to get used to it, because it. And again, I don't want to sound arrogant, but because I can speak quite well and get my point across, I think our media manager uses me quite a lot. So it's just one of those things.
And then how does it feel for you, Sam, to open up a newspaper and, for example, the 2017 World Cup, to see Anya plastered on those front pages? that was really special, and I have got copies of all of those things in a box for Anya one day when she wants to look at them. She hasn't looked at them so far, but yeah, I do feel incredibly proud, but like more and more as time goes on. I mean, it'd be quite often, I'll turn on the radio and think, oh, that sounds like Anya. Oh yeah, it is Anya. And we won't know about it. And like my next door but one neighbour, Mike, came running down with the paper today to say, have you seen this? But we didn't know. But
that's because I'm useless, by the way. I'm completely useless.
She's completely useless.
I forget that I've done them. So that I did quite a lot of stuff last week for this week for International Women's Day, because obviously all our girls are away as well. And I just kind of forget that I've done them. Or I forget who they're with. but also things come in last minute as well. So I think Mum would want to read them. I just forget to tell her. So I'm useless.
But it's okay.
Sorry.
Do you think with that sort of rise in social media and that sort of added pressure, do you think it's really important to have a support network around you to kind of push past that?
I think so, yeah. But I think I think a lot of it's like, I feel incredibly fortunate to have been brought up the way that I have, and I also feel fortunate that I started, like, it's been quite a new thing, social media, and so I played a lot before it has really kicked off, and it's just about, I learned, and I guess it's a skill I learned actually quite quickly when I was younger, is you've got to work out whose opinion you value. This is away from social media, because you'll also have people who will talk to you face to face, and not that you don't value their opinion, but I know when I was younger, when you play in lots of different teams, you have lots of different coaches and they all tell you different things, and you've just got to work out who you want to listen to.
Yeah.
I have social media. I look at it. I'm not particularly prominent. I don't write a lot. I just like to see what's going on in the world. I think it can be a very good tool, but I think it can be a very dangerous tool. But the way, I don't know how far and wide this is going, but the way I see it, it's just like a lot of it's just idiots. Like I can give you the best example. So I obviously did that piece talking about how you don't compare the women's game and the men's game. They're biologically different. Yeah. We can't bowl the ball as fast. We can't hit the ball as far. Okay. And then I've got a message saying, until such a time that you and your team can hit the ball as hard and as far as my 15-year-old son, sorry, I cannot support your assertion that you are playing the same game. I was like, you literally have just said everything I said you shouldn't do. Like, it's just ridiculous. So, like, I just read that and think, what an idiot. Like, what an idiot. You're replying to an article that says, don't compare the men's and the women's game. Can't do it, biologically different. And then you go, sorry, can't say it's the same game because you can't do it. I was just like, idiot. What's the point in getting annoyed by that? You just
no point arguing. Yeah.
Like, what can you do with that?
My biggest frustration, honestly, is just seeing it all the time, because it's really rubbish excuses as well. And
I think you've got to accept it's there. I think it's one of those things now. You have to accept it's there. If you can't cope with it and what's put on it, right, whether it's right or wrong, and I think a whole load of stuff that they've posted is horrific and wrong, and social media companies need to do more to stop it. But if you can't cope with it, you shouldn't have it. Yeah. Basically, this is the long and the short of it.
And Sam, how do you feel if you see maybe negative comments about England women on Twitter? How does that make you feel as a parent?
I do find it upsetting, and there have been tweets about Anya that I have that have been upsetting. I block those people. Like Anya said, you have to be a grown up and think, well, I'm choosing to read this and choosing to be annoyed by it. So don't listen to it, really. But it is, sometimes people can write horrible things. Tom gets very upset, actually. Tom finds it really hard.
He needs to learn not to read them. But that
I know.
This is kind of my point, and Tom's given me a great example. Like, I don't see half of it. I swear I don't see half of it, because the bit that's like on the notifications, I click on it because I want that little dot to go. I don't read half of it. Like, it really washes. Sometimes like, have you seen this? And I'm like, no. It's just like, you've just got to decide what. And the way I look at it, and like, if you get annoyed and irritated, then the only person who's actually won is the person who wrote it, because that's kind of, I don't know, that's kind of why they wrote it. So they win. Or if you get annoyed enough to retaliate, well, that just never goes well, ever.
Yeah, I don't think biting back,
no,
even clever comments, I don't think that helps either. It's what people want, isn't it?
What happens, especially when you're growing up? Did you ever receive any comments in, like, obviously real life, like parents of when you play against boys, parents being like, oh, it's a girl playing, and all that rubbish?
Yeah, I was very lucky, because no one's ballsy enough to say it to your face. So they said it when I wasn't around. However, people are stupid enough not to think about who might be around them. So mum heard most of them. I didn't really. I just didn't care. Like I really, really didn't care. I was pathetic. And like, it's even worse when it's the parent making the comment or the parent not stopping
Child. Yeah.
not stopping the child, but like more for them. I think in lots of respects it worked to my advantage because no 11-year-old boy wants to get out to an 11-year-old girl, so I think it worked in my favour. I didn't hear them. I tell you what, actually, football was much worse.
Yeah,
because
much
the
worse.
parents would stand on the side of the pitch and yell at their child on the pitch. And obviously I'm on the pitch as well, and I'm not deaf. Like, football was horrific. The football parents were awful. It was way, way, way worse. Cricket, they just set behind your back.
Don't get beaten by a girl. And I think it was just, I don't know, embarrassment for their sons. I remember turning up at a game with you when you were playing for Somerset, and you got out of the minibus and went off to get changed. You were only 11 or 13, I can't remember that sort of age. Anyway, you went off to get changed, and the parents of the opposition were going, "Oh, it's ridiculous. Haven't Somerset got, 13 boys that they can bring, that they have to bring a girl?" And they've just kept going on and on. This is an insult to our boys. It's not a proper game. Anyway, and he got 5 wickets in that game. And I never said anything to them, but at the end, they must have realised that I was in earshot when they were saying all this. And actually, a couple of them came and apologised to me and said, "You must have heard what we were saying. Yeah, your daughter's much better than our boys." So sometimes actually you don't need to say anything, but actually you can see how the parents' attitudes really rub off on the children.
Sam, what was your proudest moment of Anya in cricketing terms?
My proudest moment, I was clearly hugely proud of what she did in the World Cup. Hugely proud. A couple of days after that, she had a tweet or a direct message from somebody whose daughter was very ill, from Portsmouth, where Ian comes from, and Anya has got really strong links with Portsmouth, wondering if Anya would come and meet his daughter, because of the sort of fight and determination Anya had showed in the game. He wanted his daughter to sort of meet Anya, and Anya's response was, given everything that was going on around the World Cup, you can only imagine, can't you?
Yeah.
She was like, "Well, yeah, I can't come for a couple of days, but I'll be down." And it was a few days of winning the World Cup, she'd taken the World Cup down to the hospital to meet this girl. So I felt really proud of her then. So, she talks about not wanting to put herself forward, but whenever anybody asks anything of her, she will do it. So I think that's one of the things I'm most proud of, is that, she is prepared to do those sort of things that really help people.
And then I guess just flipping it round, Anya, what's been kind of one of the most memorable times with your mum in a cricket setting where she's done something that, she's got your back and she's made you quite proud?
I feel incredibly lucky that I have her as a mum. It's more often than not when things aren't going very well, because by and large mum can be at all the home games, and dad quite a few as well, and I just have that, I guess, that comfort of knowing that win, lose or draw, it doesn't matter, because obviously it matters because I want to win, but I remember having some of the worst games ever, or having some of the worst times ever on a pitch or in a game, and at the end of the game just going over to see mum and dad, and I don't know, it just kind of instantly makes me feel better, because I know that they still love me, and I say they don't care, obviously they care, but it doesn't matter to them, and I can just go and sit and have a chat with them, and I guess not be a cricketer and all of that. And I feel incredibly fortunate to have that from mum, because I know that lots of people don't, and like I said, I'm so fortunate that I have that support, and I've had that support growing up, and and mum and dad together have, like I said, like I feel like made me who I am today. Have always kept me grounded, and I feel so fortunate for that.